Hey, GW coming to you again. Hey, we're going to talk about Burial Ground. It's an Italian horror film, and it has a couple of different names: Night of the Zombies, Zombie 3, which it is one of the Italian films classified as Zombie 3. For those of you who don't know, real quick, in the late 1970s to the early 1980s, there was a boom of zombie movies in Italy. Um, Most of them were under the working title of Zombie 3. There was, in fact, an actual Zombie 3. There was a Zombie 4 and a Zombie 5, and I think a Zombie 6. They all were unofficial sequels, more or less, to Lucio Fulci's Zombie, which later on maybe we'll review. But it seemed like every zombie movie had about two or three titles to it. So that was just a thing back in Italy, and you guys can look that up. But anyway, we're going to talk about Burial Ground. Now, this movie is criticized for basically having no plot. And I disagree with that statement because, first of all, yeah, it might not have much of a story, but the plot is simple. Zombies rise from the grave. A group of tourists or victims or survivors, whatever you want to call them, have to fight back. Are they going to survive? That is your story. It's not much of one, but it is. So it was widely criticized. A lot of people also criticized it because it was just, no story, like I said just a second ago. But mainly, some critics found it boring because everything that happened was just kill, 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 kill. And I think after an hour and 20 minutes, people got bored of that in your face and wanted something different. So it was widely criticized. It was also called ridiculous and boring by some critics. And I disagree. I disagree wholeheartedly because it's not boring. It does keep your attention, and the director Andrea Bianchi, Italian guy. This was his only horror film, believe it or not. He done some exploitation flicks. One called The Malicious Whore, which I've never seen, but apparently it's an Italian exploitation flick, probably filled with a lot of sex and a lot of betrayal and probably some murder, if you will. It was a grindhouse movie. Now, this is also a grindhouse movie too, and for those of you who do not know what a grindhouse movie is, it's basically a movie that is super violent, super trashy, super bloody, and goes way over the top with its subject matter. This one is no different. The one thing I will tell you real quick is that this film this film is very splattery. And the special effects were done by Gino De Rossi. And I'll tell you something, I've watching his work over here, he did a very cool job. At the blood, at the the guts, the kills, and that's another thing that makes this story pretty much watchable. Is that you don't need a story. Basically, to wrap it up in a nutshell, there's a doctor. You don't really know his name. He had found a secret to bring back dead Etruscans. And before he can analyze it and study it, I guess these Etruscans were watching the tomb. And as soon as he, went down to research it, they come back and then they start a killing spree. And there is a lot of nasty crap in here. There's also a very, very controversial moment in Italian cinema, or in cinema, period. In this film, there is two survivors among the 6 or 7. There is a mother and son, and I swear to God that, from the get-go, something isn't right. But the son has an incestuous view of his mother in this film. And at the very last 2 or 3 minutes of the film, a very, very controversial moment comes out, which brings me to another point, is that Peter Bark plays the son. Now, this film was shot in Rome, and apparently they had a law where children could not work on R-rated films or films of that nature. So Peter Bark was 25. But when you look at him, he looks at least 13 or 14 in this film. So to circumvent the, Italian child labor laws, he was brought in to sort of, he skirted away from that. They weren't going to let the production company and the director use a real child. So 25-year-old, like I said, Peter Bark was brought in. And it was interesting because he looks very young. And, the incestuous relationship part is a very shocking moment. In fact, I've never seen anything as graphic, because the relationship is shown as pretty graphic, in this film. So I just want you guys to be aware that despite all the blood and gore and splattery effects and wicked kills, there is some incestuous sexual tension between the mother and the son in this film. And Peter Bark, who played the son, his mother, Evelyn, is played by Maria Angeli and Angela Jordan. And honestly, that was a pretty interesting relationship. Let's see. It's a very splattery film. I'm going to tell you that right now. The ending of it, like most Italian films back in the day, they just stop because you kind of know there's no hope. One thing I do want to say is the kills in this film are incredibly violent, and the makeup and the effects are pretty good. In the beginning of the film, when the zombies start to swarm, one of the characters actually, shoots the zombies, and instead of blood, this brown liquid comes out. And it just adds to the effect that, they're trying to keep it, in context, because obviously zombies wouldn't bleed real blood. The effects are much like what you would see in other horror films, like, Italian horror films like The Beyond and, City of the Living Dead. This film, too, was also criticized for putting an end to the zombie boom in Italy, because they said, one of the critics actually said that this film, the dialogue was paper thin, the acting was terrible. But when you look at it and you watch it, it makes it corny. And I think, too, that this film might turn off some people because it is subtitled. So whenever they speak in American, not Italian, their mouths don't move the same as like yours or mine when we speak English. It's like dubbed. So that might be a turn off. Now I can remember, going to the video store whenever I was a kid and seeing this cover. And on this cover, guys, I don't know if you could see it. See that warning? That warning says this film contains scenes which are considered shocking and no one under 17 will be admitted. Well, that's just putting an icing on the cake. You slap a sticker like that on the video, whether the story is stupid or not, you're going to rent it because you're going to say, I want to see this. So I can remember seeing this case in the video store in primetime, walking past it. I didn't know what the film was about. I didn't know any Italian filmmakers at that time, but I knew I wanted to watch that because I knew it was super duper violent and I'd be seeing something that probably would stick with me for a very long time. But when you watch this film, you can see that it's set new heights for the zombie for the zombie movies. You know, I think after this, you know, blood and guts and, you know, splattery effects were pretty much the norm in zombie movies. There is a lot of splattery effects in this, guys. I'm not gonna lie. There's there's decapitations, there's throat ripping, there's gut pulling. And that brings me to another point. You know, in all these zombie movies, when the zombies are eating the people, the victims, and they're digging away at their stomachs, I want to know what they use for that special effects. Because, you know, I would hate to do a scene and they would say, hey, Greg, you know, in this scene, you're a zombie. You got to dig out the guts of this guy you just killed. I say, okay. But what do they use for that? You know what I mean? Is it rubber coated in you know, fake blood? You know, that would leave a bad taste in your mouth. I don't know if I could shoot that scene. But then again, who knows? And they look like they're having a good time because it's used throughout the film. But who knows? The only criticism is this being an 80s zombie movie. The zombies are really slow. They're not World War Z zombies by any means, guys. The effects on them, they wear masks, obviously. That's pretty clear. You can probably go through this movie, you know, watch it once for the shocking violent scenes, but then watch it again to see how many masks look alike. And there's a ton of them that look alike. I would say in this movie, they probably used maybe 13, 14 masks and just changed them a little bit because most of the zombies do look the same, but that's not a criticism. That's just saying, hey, you know, budget may be the cause for that. Trying to think of what else I could say about that. When the zombies, you know, whenever they figure out how to kill these zombies, obviously you shoot them in the head or destroy the brain. It works the first time, but I was trying to figure out, I'm sitting here watching this, and I was trying to figure out, did they use a watermelon? Did they use some kind of fruit, you know, and dummy it up? Because it looks pretty good, but after watching The Toxic Avenger and realizing that Lloyd Kaufman says you can make a head splatter with a watermelon, you kind of now look for that. And I was trying to figure out what it was because it looks really good. But bottom line, Burial Ground, yes, does not have much of a plot. It is a very splattery slaughterfest, if you will, of, you know, epic proportions. It tries to pull things from other movies. There's a scene where a woman gets pulled through a window and has her eyeball gouged out with a piece of glass. That came straight out of Zombie. And I think that's another thing that a lot of these Italian zombie filmmakers did is once a movie hit really big, everybody copycatted off of each other. So you're going to see the same type of kill, you know, done different ways because it worked in one film. Let's just see if it worked in another one. Makeup is really good. And honestly, with a film like this, you don't really need too much story. Basically, in a nutshell, if Zombie Island happened in Rome, Zombie Island the game, you know, you're just there, all of a sudden these zombies pop up, you have to deal with them, run, survive, fight. That's basically this movie. And probably tons of other zombie movies like it. I do like the way this is shot. I've always liked some of these old Italian movies because they do not make these anymore, guys. They don't make them with the ferocity and the creativity of the camera work that they did before. There are some camera shots in here that are absolutely amazing. And with a film like this, you can tell it was not shot on videotape. It was shot on film, then converted, and I like that. I'm old school. I think anything that's shot on film looks grainier and grittier than, this videotape stuff. Like watch the picture quality in this, right? And then watch like the picture quality in the movie Things. You're not going to get the same thing because Things was shot on video. This is on film. Now, there are so many Italian people involved in this, I can't even say the names of it. There was a girl who, Giordano. Marie Angela Giordano. She was in a film called Satan's Baby Doll. So I guess she had a career in horror, after this, which I'll have to check out now. There is a lot of wicked stuff in here. And the zombies in this film are actually creative. They take a cue from, or they set the standard for Romero zombies down the line, where they're able to use weapons and, think a little bit for themselves. They can knock down doors. They can carry sickles. They can use circular saws, believe it or not. So they are smart. And again, one of the things that's probably going to be fun about this movie is when you go back and rewatch it, how many continuity errors there are in this film. So it's going to be interesting to see. But bottom line, if you're looking for a pretty wicked Italian splatterfest zombie movie that you don't really need to think too much, you just watch it for the gory kills and, the makeup and the special effects at that time, which this film was pretty wicked, then check out Burial Ground. But I gotta tell you, the mother and the son incestuous relationship in this film, it's a bit creepy. Now, later on, just to let people know, there was a movie, it was an independent movie, about a mother who could not walk, who was bedbound, and her teenage son had to stay home with her while I think the husband was out on a business trip. And it was all about how the mother had needs and the son was trying to fight off the needs. And it was an independent film called Spanking the Monkey. And I am not lying, guys. You could look this up. I have never seen this movie on DVD. I have never seen it rental, but I know it was on Cinemax. And I know because I have a copy someplace buried in the vault. And I don't think it's a subject that is touched on too much. But that film was nowhere near the extent of how graphic this relationship is. Definitely check it out. The acting is not that bad in this film. It's not great, but it's cheesy Italian stuff. I mean, it looks like all these guys, all these actors, they went in and they knew they were going to get killed, so they had some fun with it. They didn't take it seriously. And this is not a serious zombie movie. The only thing that this film did was, like I said, raise the violence bar for zombie movies, for the future. So, definitely check it out. If you want to go on Amazon to get it, Severin Films put this out. They're the same people that put out Anthropophagus, whatever the hell is whatever the name of the movie is. Anthropophagus or whatever. It's about a cannibal on an island that kills a bunch of people. Same time frame, early 70s, late 70s, early 80s. Definitely check it out. If you have Shudder, you can watch it there with commentary with Joe Bob Briggs, and it's pretty awesome. This one is a step up, but, like I said, it's criticized for either having no story or a mindless zombie massacre. So either way, I enjoyed it. And I'm not saying it's the greatest zombie film of all time. Night of the Living Dead still holds the number one spot for me from 1968, because without that, you would have none of this. So if you're a gore hound, check it out. If you like Italian splatter films, check it out. If you have a weak stomach, I would say watch Duck Dynasty.